This is CBC Vancouver News.
And I want to just see him one more time.
Every day I'm posting on Facebook for lost men and boys.
Family members search for answers and support for missing and murdered Indigenous boys, men, and Two-Spirit people. Plus,
obviously, it's an enormous disappointment.
how did it get to this? We take a look at a new North Shore wastewater treatment plant that's now set to cost billions more than expected. Also,
and these are the arms for the apple picking. So it extends out.
how new technology is helping BC farmers increase production with the aim of strengthening food security in the province. Hello, thanks for joining us. I'm Janella Hamilton. They're searching for answers about how their loved ones died. A large crowd of people took to the streets of Vancouver today to honor missing and murdered Indigenous men, boys, and Two-Spirit people. As Sohrab Sandhu reports, participants say they want to raise awareness for family members they feel are overlooked.
Hundreds of people joined the third annual March for Missing and Murdered Indigenous Men, Boys, and Two-Spirit relatives. And among them is Jaden Redstone. He's marching for his murdered uncle, Felix Bernard Chief.
I want to just see him one more time.
Jaden and his family have come all the way from Winnipeg to take part. His mother, Corianne, says her brother's killing left a massive hole in their family. She met several other people who are also mourning their loved ones.
It's the same story, it's a different family member, unfortunately, but I think we need to bring more awareness, their lives mattered, and we need to be the same and equal as to the missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit.
Eugenia Cody says her family is still searching for answers after her son Charles was found dead near the PNE in 2015. She doesn't know how he died.
Every day I'm posting on Facebook for lost men and boys, children, women. This is a branch off from the missing and murdered women. We're just adding on the men too.
Data shows in 2020, Indigenous men were 4 times more likely to be victims of homicide than Indigenous women, and 7 times more likely than non-Indigenous people. Last year, the federal government announced almost $96 million in new funding for families of missing and murdered Indigenous people. Marchers at this year's event are calling for more.
We're bringing awareness to the men is just because it gets a little bit overlooked when it's compared to the missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls.
They're also pushing for changes that improve reporting and investigation when a loved one disappears or is killed.
We're just here to seek justice for their names and make sure they're known and not overlooked or not heard.
Sohrab Sandhu, CBC News, Vancouver.
A search is underway for a missing person after a small boat flipped near Mission earlier this evening. Mounties say it happened around 6:30 in the area of the Dudney Bridge on the Nickelman Slough east of Mission. 2 people were on the boat and one of them was able to make it to shore. The other person remains missing. Search and rescue crews are assisting police. Anyone with information is asked to contact RCMP. Vancouver police say they've identified a suspect involved in a violent assault of a sex worker in the downtown east side on Monday. Around midnight on June 10th, police say a man picked up the victim near East Hastings Street and Campbell Avenue. He then allegedly assaulted the sex worker with a weapon before pushing her out of his vehicle near Oppenheimer Park. Police say they located the suspect last night while patrolling near the park and have seized his vehicle. VPD says it's not naming the suspect as charges have not been laid, but they are warning sex workers in the area to remain vigilant. 4 years late and still not built. A new North Shore wastewater treatment plant is confounding Metro Vancouver. It's now 5 times over budget and an infrastructure headache for both taxpayers and politicians. Chad Pawson has more on how it all went so wrong.
This is the North Shore's new wastewater treatment plant, not even half complete, despite a promise to be operational in 2020. Its original cost, $700 million. Now that's ballooned to more than 5 times as much, nearly $4 billion. Taxpayers are on the hook, with North Shore households set to pay an extra $590 a year for 30 years. Households across the rest of Metro Vancouver will also have to pay more, between $80 and $150 extra dollars in property taxes for 15 years. Mayors of the North Shore's 3 municipalities admit the financial burden isn't sitting well with their constituents.
Well, obviously it's an enormous disappointment, a huge challenge that I guess we didn't realize 2 years ago even that it was going to be so difficult.
So, how could this happen? Well, for several reasons, says the regional government. Its original contractor was terminated in 2021 after rising costs and construction delays. The long timeline exposed the project to inflation and made it harder to find materials and labor. Design plans also needed corrections. The regional government's commissioner says, quote, "The reality is the cost to deliver the program has changed significantly since its initial estimate 13 years ago." Some local politicians are refusing to accept the huge new cost and expanded timelines. They're asking the province for an audit of the project. Meanwhile, Metro Vancouver says its new plan is viable, with work to be done here by 2030. Chad Pawson, CBC News, North Vancouver.
As we told you last night, VanCity says it's laying off 7% of its staff, or almost 200 workers, following a year of losses and rising costs. VanCity's CEO says the credit union needs to restructure to meet current market conditions and invest in its growth. Its 2023 annual report shows VanCity ended the year with a net loss of $1.3 million after tax. The CEO says while the rise in interest rates over the past few years has been a challenge, the layoffs were part of a larger need for change.
When you look at the traditional means of banking, in-branch transactions, for example, have been dropping for years. Many banks and other credit unions have announced layoffs over the last couple of years as a result of those changes. And if anything, VanCity is perhaps a little bit late.
The BC General Employee Union represents more than 800 VanCity workers. It says the layoffs came without union consultation. The province says it's providing some farmers access to technology that will help boost production and strengthen food security. As Michelle Morton learns, it's meant to automate tasks that can be done by machinery.
Sander Farms is one of the producers to get some costs covered for new technology to use in its apple orchard.
And these are the arms for the apple picking. So it extends out. 2 people are going to be over here. The other 2 are going to be on the other platform, and 2 people are going to be on the ground.
They say this fruit picking platform creates safer working conditions and will help cut down the cost of labor, as well as reduce potential damage to the fruit.
They don't have to use the letters and the bags, and it's more tiring when you're working for 10 hours a day, picking apples and doing the same thing. It takes a toll on your body.
Innovate BC is the Crown agency delivering the BC On-Farm Technology Adoption Program and says farmers applied to receive funding.
So it was an application-based program. Farmers submitted directly into us with their proposed activity and scope of work that they were going to be doing.
Schindel says it sees some farms getting up to 65% of new technology costs covered, with a cap of $150,000. Some of that technology, she says, can assist workers, as well as reduce some labor, depending on what the need is.
Offshoot the things that are more repetitive, labor-intensive activities like weeding, and cover those with robotic technologies, and being able to then allow people who are labor do things that are of higher value.
As for how this could affect the future of job opportunities for seasonal and temporary workers, advocates say it's too soon to know.
How many agriculture employers are using it and how that impacts, because they can also train their workers to do this.
Schindel says a similar pilot program will be announced closer to the fall to try to help more producers like Sander Farms. Michelle Morton, CBC News, Vancouver.
Pop superstar Taylor Swift has confirmed her record-breaking Eras Tour will end in December, presumably with 3 final shows here in Vancouver. Swift is set to play at BC Place on December 6th, 7th, and 8th. Right now, those are the only dates booked that month, meaning the year-and-a-half-long tour could officially end in BC. Swift kicked off the tour last March in the U.S. and has performed in Mexico, South America, Asia, Australia, and Europe.
That right now there isn't another city booked after that. Looks like it could end right here in our city. So it'd be an amazing boost for, I think, people just to enjoy it, and but also for the economy. Her tour has grossed more than $1 billion, and clearly there's going to be a lot of people that are going to want to come into town to see that concert.
Swift is expected to bring a significant economic boost to Vancouver. One Toronto business professor estimates that Swift's 6-concert run there would generate as much as $700 million for the city. But there are questions about where fans will stay in Vancouver, given the shortage of hotel rooms and their prices.
It's like housing. As you have less rooms, your hotel prices get more expensive, right? You have less places to live. The rents don't get cheaper either. So we do need to be building more rooms.
When Swift's Vancouver dates were announced last year, the province said it would reach out to hotels to discuss fare pricing after one fan was quoted more than $3,500 for 2 nights at a downtown hotel. A BC park is going to expand to help protect caribou herds. Clincesa Park is roughly 1,100 kilometers north of Vancouver, just west of Chetwynd. A protection zone of almost 2,000 square kilometers is going to be added to the park. That's due to a 2020 partnership between BC and the Saulteaux and West Moberly First Nations. The province says caribou numbers have fallen by more than 55% in the last century, mostly due to people disturbing their habitats. Officials now say there are fewer than 4,000 of the mountain species of caribou left. Here's a timely reminder to close and lock your doors and make sure any food or garbage is secured. The bears are out and about. Coquitlam RCMP say some homeowners got quite a start just after 6 a.m. Thursday when they found a black bear stuck in their garage near Prairie Avenue and Coast Meridian Road in Port Coquitlam. It's believed the animal got in through an open, unlocked side door that closed behind it. It then tried to paw its way out, ripping apart the automatic garage door system in the process. Eventually, Mounties reopened the side door, coaxed the bear out, and it took off into a green space. No one was hurt, but there was a lot to clean up. The RCMP says it gets plenty of bear calls this time of year as more people encroach on the animals' habitats. People experiencing homelessness in Victoria will soon be able to get support from a new facility. It is owned and operated by Solid Outreach Society, while the city is providing funding for at least 1 year. People will be able to get food, harm reduction, and overdose prevention services, and they can access help for long-term health issues, detox treatment, and housing case management.
Best work we've done has been in between all the silos of funding, like between housing, health, recovery, treatment, harm reduction. Somewhere in the middle is the magic piece of the work that we're doing. And it's often hard to do all the things people need based on any of those silos.
Up to 50 people can be served at a time from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. The site is being renovated and is set to open in July. After the break, we take you inside a new safe haven for single mother families looking to escape despair and poverty. Stay tuned. Men still make up more than half of toxic drug deaths in BC, but the coroner finds the death rate for women is growing, nearly doubling since 2020. In response, the Women and Family Centre at the Union Gospel Mission provides space and support for the different stages of recovery, from immediate stabilization to long-term housing for families and childcare. Michelle Elliott paid them a visit to learn more.
So what we're seeing here is the room for mom with baby when she first enters stabilization and recovery. So when she gets here, if it's a woman who is an individual woman, she'll enter into our sanctuary stabilization program. And so that is kind of like the very beginning of recovery. And one of the things that we have learned over the course of working with many men and women in addictions recovery is that a lot of times, in order to truly focus on recovery, you kind of need to stabilize first. And what that means is, do you have a bank account? Have you experienced chronic homelessness and you don't have clothes, you don't have a toothbrush, you don't have all of those things? And so we work with the women for up to 3 months, making sure that she's stabilized in that capacity before her true recovery journey begins. And then that's when the trauma-informed care really begins and the deep work really begins.
A woman staying here can spend up to 6 months working on healing from trauma and addiction. The Women and Family Centre has 7 floors. It's uniquely designed to support women through different stages of recovery. The upper floors offer a longer-term home, along with supports like childcare.
What does that tell you about the barriers specifically for women in recovery?
I've met countless women who have talked about being so ready to seek recovery, so ready to take that step in their lives, and then being so scared of what would happen if they said that they were struggling because they had kids at home. Would they lose their children? And what would that look like? And we know scientifically that for parents, if they're struggling with addiction and then their children are taken away from them as an aspect of their recovery, their chances of actually being able to recover well and have that be a part of their lifelong journey, they diminish rapidly. And so having places like this where it's like, okay, you've got a baby, that's okay. Bring your baby with you, we will help you. That can completely change a woman's outlook and her ability to actually seek recovery and seek it long term. So now what we're going to go into is what a housing unit looks like for a woman who might have been reunified with her children and is further on in her recovery journey. All of the baby stuff is provided. There's often little toys, and we do try to get to know them before they move in a little bit so we can fill this even more.
I imagine people may not understand how crucial having your own home can be in the road to recovery.
Yeah, well, and when you think about the road to recovery too, I think it's just so perhaps misunderstood what a journey it is, and that reoccurrence can happen often when women or men are first in part of their recovery, and that as they continue on that road to recovery, the longer they maintain it, the smoother the road gets. And so once they get to that 5-year mark where, we hope most women who live here get to, their chances of having reoccurrence, of having a really devastating relapse, they almost completely diminish. And so that is part of why we built the building the way that we did. It's a very emotional thing. I've worked here for 8 years. I started here when my firstborn was 10 months old. I don't think I recognized what a privilege it was to have a safe space for me and my baby to go and to be through the sleepless nights, through all of those struggles. We need to have spaces like this for women to come and for their children to come, because this isn't just a woman's life that's being changed, it's generational change, it's community change, because those cycles are being broken, which means that hopefully little baby that comes in here from Fur isn't gonna come here when she's 20. Maybe she's gonna go to university and she's gonna get to do all of these things because her mom made the hard choice and did the hard work. And she did it because there was a community here to hold her up. I get so emotional.
Here we have a live shot of Harbour Centre. When we return, Darius Madavi will have our full forecast.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
CBC Vancouver is the exclusive media partner of the 2024 Indian Summer Festival, July 4th to the 14th. The festival showcases over 80 artists across a spectrum of arts, from live concerts to discussions and visual arts displays. Tickets at indiansummerfest.ca. And never miss a special programming series, event, or contest. Subscribe to CBC Vancouver's e-newsletter and keep connected with us.
The weather update is brought to you by Direct Buy Furnace. To cool and clean the air in your home, call Direct Buy Furnace. Installing Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
Darius Madavi joins us now with a look at our weekend weather. Darius, what do we have in store for Father's Day this Sunday?
Oh, it's going to be a bit of a showery one. I'm holding out hope that it'll clear up a little bit by the evening time for maybe go out for a sunset, sit on the wet ground, but it is a showery one. It is going to be a cool one. We're going to see these showers continue throughout Saturday. There is a risk of a thunderstorm for pretty much all of southwestern BC except for the North Island as well. So be ready for that possibility that you could hear some thunder. I know you and I, Janella, don't mind that so much, but for anybody who has a small dog that might want to be inside, if we have, you can see here again, possibility of some clearing late Saturday. I wouldn't count on it, but it is a possibility. As we get into Sunday, some showers will return at times, mostly in the early morning, and then we should be mostly dry, and then we may see some clearing late Sunday as well. So a possibility, that's for Vancouver. The island gets much more clear on Sunday from many parts of it, but not everywhere, so be aware of that. If we zoom out to the rest of the province, though, we do have some severe weather, so we're going to watch this precipitation roll by. Be aware by Fort St. John in the Peace, up in Fort Nelson, we've had that rainfall warning, 40 to 50 millimeters of rain expected. Should be good news for the drought situation, but since it's coming down pretty fast and a lot of downpours, might not see all that being soaked up by the ground as we'd like to be, so possibility of some local flooding there. And if we come down to the southern interior, those mountain passes very likely to get at least trace amounts of snow, up to 5 centimeters, both tonight and tomorrow night. So if you're going to be driving those mountain passes, be aware of that. Beyond that, we start to dry up as we get into next week, although a brief pulse of precipitation is possible at some point in the early week. Now, again, we're going to be cool over the next couple days, staying cool, maybe even dropping a little bit for parts of the south. Then temperatures start to recover as we get into early next week, but it'll probably take until midweek to get back up to seasonal or where we have been at lately. And if we take a look at the conditions across the province tomorrow, again, thunderstorms blanketing much of the southern part of or at least the possibility of it, blanketing much of the southern parts of the province tomorrow, so be aware of that. And lastly, lots of precipitation coming to parts of Vancouver as well. I forgot I put that in there, to be totally honest with you. But in terms of a 5-day forecast, we do have that thunderstorm risk tomorrow. Holding out hope for the sun late Sunday, and then we clear up, Janella. It's a beautiful week ahead.
Yes, I love watching a thunderstorm from inside, where I'm dry and safe. Yeah. Thanks so much, Darius.
Thank you.
That is your late news for this Friday. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. For news anytime, visit our website at cbc.ca/BC. We'll see you tomorrow.